Part 1. A day like any other. Nia Johnson had worked at the Riverside Grand Hotel for almost 5 years. She was known for her friendly smile, attention to detail, and a knack for handling any situation that came her way. Working in the hotel industry wasn't her dream career, but it provided stability for her and her family. Her day usually started early, ensuring everything was immaculate in the lobby, handling guest requests, and sometimes taking on tasks outside of her job description just to make things run smoothly. That particular morning, Nia felt the energy shift as she stepped into the hotel's grand lobby. It was brighter than usual, bustling with guests, staff, and wedding attendees dressed to the nines, chatting and laughing as they admired the ornate surroundings. The Riverside was hosting a lavish wedding that weekend, which meant the hotel was packed and everyone was on their toes, catering to the event's guests. Despite the busyness, Nia maintained her usual composure. She found joy in her work, in interacting with different people, and in being able to make someone's day better, even if only for a moment. As she was arranging fresh flowers near the front desk, she caught sight of a young family. The mother was unloading a pile of bags, glancing down every so often at her baby, who was settled in a stroller by her side, joyfully munching on snacks. Nia, who had always loved children, couldn't help but smile at the baby. But just as she turned her attention back to her task, something felt wrong. She looked over again and saw the baby's expression change. His small face was turning an alarming shade of red, and he was frantically grabbing at his throat. Nia's heart dropped as she realized what was happening. The baby was choking. The mother hadn't noticed yet. She was too busy with her bags, and with the noise of the lobby, she couldn't hear her baby's struggles. Nia acted on instinct. She rushed over, calling out to the mother, "Ma'am, your baby is choking." Her voice cut through the chatter, catching the mother's attention. Panic spread across the mother's face as she realized what was happening. Without waiting for permission, Nia carefully lifted the baby from the stroller. She positioned him across her arm with his head facing downward and began administering gentle, controlled pats on his back. Her heart pounded as each second passed, knowing that every moment was critical. A small crowd began to gather, and the lobby fell silent as guests and staff watched in tense anticipation. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the piece of food dislodged from the baby's throat. The baby let out a loud, healthy cry, and everyone in the lobby exhaled with relief. The mother, overwhelmed with gratitude, hugged her baby tightly before turning to Nia, her eyes brimming with tears. "Thank you," she whispered. "You saved my baby." Applause broke out around them, with people clapping, cheering, and some even wiping away tears. Nia felt embarrassed by the attention, but also relieved that the baby was safe. As she gently handed the child back to his mother, she felt a deep sense of accomplishment, knowing she had made a real difference. But her moment of pride was cut short when she felt a presence beside her. Turning, she saw Mr. Whitman, the hotel manager. His expression was anything but congratulatory. Part 2. The Heroic Act. "Mr. Whitman," Nia greeted him cautiously, still catching her breath from the adrenaline of the moment. Mr. Whitman had been the manager at Riverside for nearly a decade. He was known for his strict adherence to the hotel's policies and for maintaining an almost clinical level of professionalism. Every employee knew that he cared more about keeping the operation smooth and trouble-free than any individual's personal concerns. Nia respected his dedication, but today his demeanor felt cold and unwelcoming. "Can I speak with you in my office?" he said in a tone that felt more like a command than a request. Nia nodded, and with one last glance at the mother and her baby, followed him. Once inside, Mr. Whitman closed the door and sat down behind his desk, folding his hands in front of him. His silence stretched on as he looked at Nia with an unreadable expression. "Nia," he began finally, "do you realize the disruption you caused in the lobby?" Nia's heart sank. "Sir, I understand it might have been a bit chaotic, but the baby was choking. There wasn't time to wait for someone else." Mr. Whitman's expression remained stern. "I appreciate that you stepped in, but you've been trained to follow protocol. We have emergency procedures for situations like these, and by taking matters into your own hands, you went against them. You should have called for assistance instead of disrupting the environment." Nia couldn't believe what she was hearing. Sir, the baby might not have made it if I'd waited. I used my first aid training and did what I thought was right. Mr. Whitman shook his head. I understand that, but rules exist for a reason. Our guests expect a certain atmosphere, and we can't have employees acting independently in a way that distracts from our service. The coldness in his response hit Nia like a slap. She'd just saved a child's life. Yet Mr. Whitman was treating her actions as if they were a mistake, a burden, a breach of decorum. She felt anger simmering in her chest, but she tried to remain composed. Sir, with all due respect, I wouldn't change a thing. If I see someone in danger, I'll help them. Mr. Whitman's face hardened. Then I'm afraid we're at an impasse, Nia. We're going to have to terminate your employment, effective immediately. Nia's mouth went dry. Fired? For saving a child? The words echoed in her mind as she tried to process them. Her legs felt weak, and her voice came out in a whisper. You're firing me? Part 3. The unthinkable consequence. The shock was evident on her face, but Mr. Whitman's expression didn't change. Nia could hardly comprehend what was happening. Sir, please, think about this. I didn't do anything wrong. I'm not saying you did something wrong in a moral sense, but we have a business to run, Nia, he replied, his voice firm. Your actions were disruptive to our guests, and we can't afford to risk this kind of behavior. Nia's voice shook. Sir, I've worked here for years, always given my best, always followed the rules. But in this situation, doing nothing would have been wrong. He was unmoved. We can discuss your severance package. I'm truly sorry, but this is the decision. Just then there was a knock on the door, and the mother of the baby burst in, having heard whispers of the confrontation from some of the staff. She looked at Mr. Whitman with fire in her eyes. Are you seriously firing her for saving my child's life? She demanded. This is a private matter, Mr. Whitman replied, clearly uncomfortable. No, I don't think it is. She saved my son, the mother argued. Without her, I would be planning a funeral right now. How can you fire someone over that? Mr. Whitman tried to maintain his authority. Ma'am, I understand your perspective, but we have policies in place to maintain order. I'll make sure everyone knows what kind of establishment this is, the mother replied fiercely. You're punishing a hero. With that, she stormed out, vowing to get justice for Nia. Nia watched, feeling both gratitude and sadness. She appreciated the support, but the reality of losing her job was still sinking in. Part 4. An unexpected turn of events. The mother's words were more than just empty threats. By the next day, social media was ablaze with Nia's story. A guest had recorded the incident and posted the video, describing how the hotel had fired Nia for saving a child. The video went viral, and people from all over the country shared their outrage. Journalists reached out, and soon local news stations picked up the story. Nia, who had never wanted attention, found herself in the middle of a media storm. Messages poured in from strangers offering encouragement, and some even sent job offers. The mother who had defended Nia wasn't done yet either. She started an online petition to have Nia reinstated, gathering thousands of signatures in a matter of days. The Riverside Grand Hotel found itself drowning in negative reviews and social media backlash, and Mr. Whitman was under immense pressure from upper management to address the situation. Finally, after days of silence, the hotel issued a public apology and offered Nia her job back, trying to save face. But Nia had seen the hotel's true colors. She politely declined their offer, feeling stronger and more confident in her worth. Part 5. Finding a new path. Through the overwhelming support, Nia saw an opportunity to make a fresh start. A local organization dedicated to emergency response training had seen her story and reached out, offering her a position as an instructor. She would be teaching others the skills she had used to save that child. Nia accepted the offer, feeling both pride and purpose. Her experience had taught her the importance of doing the right thing, regardless of the consequences, and now she would be passing that lesson on to others. Her life had changed dramatically in the span of just a few days, but she felt hopeful for the future, knowing she would be making a difference every day. And as for the Riverside Grand Hotel, the once respected establishment suffered lasting damage to its reputation. A reminder to everyone that sometimes kindness and courage can disrupt even the most rigid systems.